Hello, and welcome to another episode of Ruse Cues. This one is with my dear friend Ari Tani. I've known Ari since about a decade and a half, since the fourth grade. We first met playing rec soccer. We were quite the defensive duo out there. Messed shit up on the 7v7 field. But since then, we played soccer together, grown up, and went to middle school and high school together. And although we didn't go to the same college, we have actually since both moved back to Portland and kind of been able to reconnect, and it's just been really cool. He's one of the most intelligent, interesting people I've ever met. Just a really cool guy with a lot on his mind. So this was a conversation we had a few months back, and it kind of meanders from topic to topic. But as you'll see, my theme was kind of just talking about some of the ideas that I remember we discussed when we were first becoming friends, kind of in that middle school time, and kind of where we stand on those ideas now. So it was a fun talk. Without further ado, here it is. And where I think would be fun to start again is kind of just talking about spirituality and religion and faith and all that, because you were one of the first people I talked to about like atheism and stuff like that. I don't really know how those conversations came to happen.
Yeah.
But they did. And so I just kind of be curious to the formation of those opinions back when you were, 13, 14, and how those beliefs have changed or adapted or grown to now, about 10 years later.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, growing up, I definitely wasn't ever a part of any religion. So, roots of my beliefs, I guess, from the point that I could really start thinking about that stuff, I wasn't going to make a decision about anything, but we grew up, I wasn't forced into anything, and my grandparents were Catholic, so my grandma's Catholic, but that never got passed down to the children. So, I just I never had a strong belief in any higher power in terms of like God. Like that was not like It's hard to, for me, I think a lot of stuff that I believe in is a little bit more, I mean, it's hard to talk about that when it's spirituality, but like factually based in some extent. And a lot of religions are, I mean, they're stories, and the faith comes from the stories, but people take it literally. So I think that's something that turned me off from it, from some perspective too.
Was people connecting too literally to religious texts,
or thinking that everything was literal? So that's like a separation in Christianity that I have come to see now is Christianity can be a great thing. People can have the faith, but not still use the scripture and like have their own beliefs, but also with things like homosexuality and things like that, like there's Christian sects that accept that now because they realize that, it's not everything in the Bible should be taken literally.
Right.
It's like the ones that take every word literally when the book itself was written forever ago. Like it's not to be taken literally is the thing. And that's where a lot of problems come from. So it's in the middle.
For you, just kind of that critiquing of realizing like the scripts aren't clicking with you, and they're clicking with too many people too much.
Yeah.
So that kind of turned you off.
Mm-hmm. I guess. And learning about religion. We went to LaSalle.
Like moving into high school, how did that kind of transform? Because that really fucked with me too. Is like having Catholicism. I wouldn't say necessarily shoved in your face, but you're learning about it every day.
Right.
And it either conflicts or makes you expand on ideas you had about those things prior.
And in some way it was kind of shoved in our face going to LaSalle. I mean, think about our experiment. I mean, if we had gone to Rex Putnam or Milwaukee or wherever we would have gone otherwise, would have probably had almost little to no experience with religion, I would think. But I mean, at LaSalle, I did like at LaSalle and going into Gonzaga where I had to take religion classes also. I did like learning about religions. The history of them is pretty cool to hear about because it's the history of people in some respect. Like a lot of cultures developed from those initial religious beliefs. But so I think that in high school, especially, learning more about religion made me even more of an atheist or even more of an agnostic.
Okay. Aim your thing just a little closer to your.
Closer.
No, you can be further away, but just have it angled, not like.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think just learning more about it, because a lot of the things, I mean, we read a ton of the Bible in school. I learned about Judaism and Hinduism and Buddhism and things like that. You learn a ton about. I was much more prone to those things, or much more receptive to them. But a lot of things in the Bible were just so far-fetched to me. And I just think that like, religion can be a solution to problems, like, really upfront, and it makes it so that things like death and the afterlife and like what's really out in the universe are very simple, whereas I'd like to think that there's just more, like, there's so much that we don't know. And so sometimes I think religion halts that learning for people, and they get the idea in their head and they're like, oh yeah, like, you know, heaven or hell, or when you die this happens, blah blah blah, and it kind of puts you in a box, whereas, I mean, no one knows. Maybe no one's ever gonna really know.
False answers, kind of, is how you're
right. Yeah, I guess I think that that's false, just because I think that I know that there's more,
right?
And I don't know that for sure, obviously, either, but I would highly believe that.
Totally. Yeah, definitely. So now, I guess, how is your kind of opinion about religion adapted, and how do you, like, back then, was it only just like a rejection of religion and just being like, I'm an atheist and nothing more, or was there always like spirituality in you? Because I know you're a spiritual dude, or was that something that kind of blossomed over recent years?
I would say that I think at my core I have been spiritual my whole life to some extent. I think I've been in touch with some things spiritually that some people don't seem to be, but it's
like what?
Like, I don't know. I like my sense of empathy towards other people, and like, I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain. Like, there's certain people in my life, like people like me and you, like Brendan Jones is another example. Like, I think it's literally not like me being more spiritually inclined. It's like being more receptive to, like, even psychedelics or the universe or science or things that are more removed from religion, but also spiritual and faith-based to some extent. Does that make sense?
I think I know what you're saying.
Like, just being receptive to those ideas, because that's the kind of thing that I like to think of more. Like,
willing to ingest those concepts. Like,
yeah. In, like, because I think some of that stuff comes to people and it's more of, they instantly file it into the category of like more of a far-fetched sci-fi thing, but some people it's more that, yeah, like, I believe that more, something like that. And I think last time we talked a little bit about like pantheism, which is the, you know, it's the belief that like the higher power is more of nature and like the energy in the universe around us,
right?
Which I like to believe, because where would we be without our actual Earth and without our atmosphere? And, you know, it's a crazy condition that human beings developed into and are able to have life now.
Yeah. How I know it's not like something you've delved super deep into, but I'm just curious because I don't know a lot about pantheism, but it does seem really cool to me. How has that affected your life, or how you behave in the world at all?
I think just in the sense, and it's not just that, but there's been a huge movement towards thinking more about nature and climate, and obviously, and so it kind of coincided with that, but just having more of a reverence for the earth that we live in nature. And I've, you know, sometimes I look at stuff, just like last Friday when I was like walking back to my parking structure from work, I was just thinking about how like this building and what we're building right now is essentially just polluting the earth. And like, how would it, I mean, like, if we weren't just building all of these structures and just advancing and advancing and advancing, it's made society focus towards things that have kept us away from nature and is removing us further and further from nature, when in reality, if we get too removed from nature, we're going to die.
Right.
Like, you can't just forget about what's giving us life. If we destroy the earth, then we have to find another place to live.
It's like a continuous just slope. You're like constantly getting further and further away from like the natural world, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's a scary thought, man, where it's like your existence is negatively impacting what you want to remain. Yeah, that's hard. How do you deal with that mentally? Like, I know this job is fairly new for you, but like, I mean, because you're not doing anything wrong. You're making money. You're doing a job that you were hired to do. You're doing what we're all doing, which is just like trying to stay alive and trying to do your own thing. Is that something that has affected you really hard? Like, have you had to cope with that, or is it just kind of like a back of your head thought that you're like gives you a bad vibe?
Most of the time, it's that back of the head thought, honestly. Yeah. But when we all have bad days, I think, or I have bad days sometimes where you're just more in your head and thinking about real stuff, and it's those days when I just think about I'd much rather be working towards a final project that would be benefiting more people or a larger cause, where it's like our end. At the end of this project, our finished product is going to be a building that makes computer chips that are very advanced, and they're probably going to do a lot of good in the end, because they'll put them, I mean, people can use them for anything. They go into laptops, all kinds of technology. We all use
that shit. We need it.
Yeah, totally. So that's like a total plus, but I think I'd be more fulfilled doing something that I saw as more directly beneficial to more people, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I just know the Intel's their production. I mean, there's just a lot of pollution that goes on and things. There's pros and cons to the whole thing. There's pros and cons to the whole thing. But in the end, it just comes down to like passion for me. Like at the bottom of like that train of thought, it'd just be, if I was doing something that I was really passionate about, like I'd be happy most days.
Really? Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, let's kind of talk about that, actually. Because I mean, last time, it was kind of revolved around then and now sort of thing, and we don't have to make it like entirely that. But I am kind of curious, like back, about 10 years ago or whatever, end of middle school, start of high school, as you're kind of coming into your own as a real living adult, not adult, but human being. What was your perception of like happiness in life, and like what did you think would make you happy? Did you think about that a lot?
Man.
What job, was there a job, or was there like a place you thought you'd be at to be happy as an adult? Like, lifetime happiness is kind of abstract when you're that young, but was there something you thought like, I'm gonna be doing that and that'll make me happy?
I don't think there was, honestly. No. I mean, I didn't think about like the idea of happiness, I think, in any deeper sense for a long time.
Until like you start experiencing unhappiness as an adult.
Yeah, no, but it is like
I don't gotta worry about that. I'm happy all the time.
That is very true. But like you said, it's kind of like an abstract thing to think about, like far into the future to what's going to make you happy kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think that I did. There was I think something that really genuinely makes me happy in my life in general is music.
Right.
So I think in high school and maybe younger, I knew I wanted to do something with music to some extent, because I just knew that music made me happy in general.
Right.
Music. I probably couldn't live without music, honestly.
Of course,
for being honest. I have fucking nightmares about going deaf.
Really?
Yes, I have absolute nightmares, dude. I'd rather go blind than go deaf.
How does a deaf nightmare play out?
Well, it's like,
I've never had one of those.
It plays out literally every time I've had it. It's just me realizing that I can't hear anymore.
You're just like going about your shit, and then all of a sudden it's like.
Yes, and it's like I'm in a hospital bed, and my family's there, and I just can't hear.
What?
And the whole dream is just my life is destroyed because I can't hear. And hopefully in real life, if that happened, I wouldn't be completely destroyed. But like that, it would be really sad.
It'd be tough, man.
Fuck, man.
Going deaf would be really, really hard. Yeah, I've long, I agree with you because like I would say movies are my favorite form of art, but I could live without movies. I couldn't live without music.
Right.
Because the other thing too is like there's music in every movie. Even silent movies.
Music
so
is
it's like
part.
you can't music is a part of basically like every form of like I mean even literature, like the best literature people will say it's written like music. Like it has a rhythm to it or something. It's totally it's the most important art form. It's the oldest too. Art form in our world. I mean there's a reason why kids you give them a pot and a bag of beans, they're gonna shake the bag of beans and make the pot instead of make a bowl of soup. Like it's the most innate. Like you're inspired by sound and rhythm and pattern. Yeah, that's a horrifying thing. I've never had any. I've had the dreams where like you need to run away and your legs don't work type shit.
Totally,
which I was like very common. But I've never had like a sensory loss and that be the surrounding nightmare. Is that awful? That's crazy. Does it happen a lot? Awful.
Happens to me probably like once a month.
What the fuck?
Honestly, yeah. Like a time, yeah.
Dude.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Very not fun.
That's insane.
Maybe I think about it too much.
That's fucked up.
Dreams.
Yeah.
That's fucked up. That's fucked
up. Well, I guess that kind of brings me to Keenan mentioned the other day. He had a name. I had to look up the word. It's a Japanese word.
Ikigai.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure.
Yeah, because I know it kind of revolves around music, among other things.
Well, not music actually. So this is like music. Born of another passion. Have we talked about this at all? Did we start talking about this last time?
Yeah. I don't think we did at all.
Well, I just so the idea of Ikigai was, I guess, born like summer of 2019, I guess. So a pretty new thing that I was actually going to shoot for, but it was like when I was done with college, and I had thought about this the year before, like my senior year in college, but I'm pretty into clothing and like fashion and stuff, and I like to follow that stuff and like to dress well. But I think that fashion would be a really fun way because I still like to do art like on the side and stuff, and I've thought about making clothing for a while.
Oh yeah, you've always been good at that shit.
Yeah, well, I mean, thanks. But so I found this word, and it's Ikigai, and it's a Japanese word, and it's essentially a word that is an idea for the culmination of like your passion, like your vocation, your passion, something you can make money with, and something that's going to help the world. It's like what Ikigai means. So I want to, like, that's essentially my brand, or that's like what I want the studio to be. But right now I want to start making clothes.
Okay.
So I have plans to, I've been designing stuff. So I have like logos and stuff and some things that I've been thinking about design wise. So that's what I want to do is I'm planning on getting hopefully an iPad here soon so I can get my stuff digital. And hard thing about me with my art is I feel like, especially with art, like I am a perfectionist, and it's hard for me to put stuff out there sometimes. Like I'm sure anybody who makes something that is like unique to yourself or like it came from the heart, sometimes it can be hard to put out there, right?
Totally. I've got a collection of short stories I'm going to release on like online and Twitter and stuff. And
put it out. You were telling me about that last time, right?
I'm like perfecting and nitpicking at sentences and stuff. It's so embarrassing to do, kind of. And
you're your own worst critic. Yeah, we've heard that throughout our lives. I think it's so true because I mean that's the thing is if you are making something and you're happy with it, like that's awesome. Like that in reality should be all that you want. But like if you want to know what other people think, right? And like,
you're doing it for other people.
Yeah, you're doing,
even if you're doing it for yourself,
people,
you want other people to like it,
right? And but yeah, so I have some designs, and I want to start making some samples, and something that I would actually, it's like a really long-term goal. Like, so the clothing thing is in the short term, and there's still a ton of work to be done on that end. But I would like to make Ikigai like an art studio kind of. So like it's its own brand and image and like its own thing, but it'd be very cool. Like my something that I think I'm good at in my life and that I really enjoy doing is like bringing people together. Um, like perfect example, like Tanner and all that group of people from LaSalle.
Yeah.
Like that whole group is kind of, especially like Brennan for one, is like I totally like combined sort of. Well, I just introduced that group of people to like the Rex Putnam people.
Yeah,
like
yeah. I thought that was really cool. Yeah, I mean, you're clearly the connection, the cohesive.
And it was awesome because I'm just like, I love all these people. Like, I think they would like each other. And then now it's like just a big group, and it's
you
great.
See people on Instagram post photos, and it's like people that you put together. Yeah, totally,
it's
man.
Very cool. So I really like doing that, and I think it benefits a lot of people, but it'd be great. I want to bring people together, and I want to work with my friends like you and your whole journalism and all of the what we're doing right now, like and Jesse like makes music, like people make art, people write, everybody has a passion. So like way down the road, like if it be like I want to build the studio so that at some point it could just be a place for people to come, and then you just have nice conversation, you just talk about like what you're passionate about, and if the person is driven and you think it's great, like just give them the outlet to pursue their passion.
Right.
That kind of thing.
So
which I think would be great.
I mean, you don't have to have one, obviously, we're so young, but like, is your end goal essentially, because I remember we were talking about music last time slightly, and you were like, it'd be so cool, yeah, like the coolest thing ever, just make music, obviously, but you mentioned like talent scouting. Yes. And I think bringing friends together is almost kind of like being a talent scout, because it's like these people will vibe with these people, which will create a cohesive group, which will create fun times, which is almost, because a talent scout's job is to find people that will create success and create fun times for people, and I mean, make money is obviously the end of that,
right?
But like, do you see yourself ultimately being like almost like a art talent scout of like any kind, where you have created this conglomerate kind of business? I know it's like a naughty word, but you know what I mean, like,
right,
a big,
no, I know what
like
you mean.
a big kind of thing where artists of all different forms can come together, and you can not necessarily say yes or no to projects, but you are allowing projects to thrive beneath you that you're like overseeing.
Yeah, in some sense, and not even like overseeing them. It's like giving. So even now, like I just had a conversation with Keenan the other night, and he's talking about his friend Nate Moose. You met Moose?
I don't think so. Wait, he's his buddy from college, right?
I think so. I haven't met him either.
I know he was like was like his best college friend.
Right.
But I don't think I met him.
Right. No, I haven't met him either. But he's talking to me about this guy, and they just have plans. There's some camera that he's got that's like mainly it'd be like a Skype work camera, so a ton of people working from home now. So
right.
But he's just talking to me about how, and Keenan seems like he's pretty savvy with like website stuff and like marketing and things like that.
He's a business guy.
Yeah. So he seems like he's pretty savvy with that stuff. But he came over the other night to kind of talk about the Ikigai idea, and he's gonna work with his buddy Moose on like selling some of these cameras or something, and figuring out like suppliers and where you can get stuff produced and stuff like that. So cool. He was just talking about how, I mean, it'd be great to just work with him. Keenan's a great friend, Yeah. He's got these skills that I'm not so savvy in, and we're both it'd be great to just work together and combine our skills to make something that we're both passionate about.
Yeah.
But in the end, that would be the cool thing if the Ikigai studio, like someone could come in, we could have a conversation about what they're passionate about, and then it could be like, oh, like this person is also like really interested in this. We can connect you with him. Or like, oh, you're going to need like at some point when you're ready, like you're going to need a marketing person. Like we have somebody that is like at your level, like would be like, like giving people the resources and like-minded people to make passions into reality.
Yeah. That's fucking dream.
That would be super cool. Like, yeah. I don't know. It'd be awesome.
Yeah. No, I think that because to be honest, it's kind of the perfect look into the future because and I know some people don't like this, but we are moving towards like streaming services for TV and movies. Like those have become so like you got your live stuff, your stand-up comedy, they've got their originals and their movies and stuff.
Yeah.
That's becoming everything. I mean, it's been our grocery stores for the past 4 decades.
Yeah.
So whether you like it or not, it is a more efficient form to work. I know the whole like mom and pop shops go out of business, but this whole goal you're talking about, I feel like can kind of do what other businesses have done without taking away the mom and pop vibe, which is creativity and uniqueness and stuff like that. And right. I think that's where we need to move as a future. I don't think there's going to be much success where I'm starting a music studio or I'm starting a newspaper or something like that. Mm-hmm. Like that's dead. You're really going to have to like multimedia and platform.
Because that's how it is.
That's how it is.
Multi-platform.
It's multi-platform. That's how it is. Mm-hmm. I mean, how many like H3 like they have their Teddy Fresh business line, their clothing line, and so it's become so interwoven, and I really think that's how it's going to continue to be. So I think something like this is a vision that is worth having and not going to be a waste of time.
Thank you. I really appreciate you saying that. Actually, like,
yeah. No, I mean, it sounds great.
This honestly, I've been thinking about it for a while, but recently the fire has been pretty lit under me by my good friend Jacob Neighbors, who's my roommate from college, who came down here last weekend. We had a good just conversation about life and about our jobs, and he's kind of in the same place with his job, just kind of, it's good job, but not something super passionate about. And like he built an awesome like Sprinter van, like decked it all out with the bed and like all that stuff. And there's a rental company here that builds Sprinter vans and then just rents them out for like good profit for people to take trips and stuff. He was like, I've been thinking about building another van, and like we were just talking about just the whole thing, and I think I convinced him to build another Sprinter van. So
dude, hell yeah!
And it just lit my fire too, and then Keenan, and then you, and then
nice.
So awesome.
It's feeling good now.
Yeah, it feels good. I don't know.
Cool.
Just to have the fire lit.
Right. Yeah. Well, I was kind of curious. I kind of wanted to do a little leap because we were talking about just some ideas and some thoughts you've had as a middle schooler, which I know we played soccer together. What was it, 4th grade?
Yeah.
4th grade? Yeah.
Yeah.
But I feel like really middle school was really when we had like a full.
Yeah.
There was a gap, obviously. We played soccer, but that was it.
And we played for many years.
Right. So that was like the first time I really got to know you was in middle school.
Right.
About 10 years ago. So leaping forward, 10 years from now, I already kind of have an idea based on what we've been talking about, but where do you want to be? And is there anything that you either for sure want to have or for sure don't want to have in your life that you do now?
Well, that's a big question.
I know.
But I like it. So 33, 10 years from now. I would love to have Ichi have a solid foundation at least by that time and be like running and hopefully picked up on multiple facets. Like the clothing is its own thing. That's, that could be like the side, at least if the clothing has like a foundation and we're getting traction, that'd be great. Because I think 33 is still really young in our lives.
Absolutely.
And it's hard to project that kind of, because it sounds old and like you want to be somewhere like super solid when you're 33, but I don't think that's always like super achievable.
Dude, dream job is 40 for me.
Right.
Like, dream job is like,
I think 40 is much more like that's...
I think there's going to be so many passion projects and so much fun to be had over the next 15 years. But I think I don't think anything that's rushed or anything that's forced really is worth it, in the long run. I think really getting your shit done the right way will lead to more long-term success.
Yeah, and it's going to, just putting in all of the work that you deem necessary along the way, and it's gonna be work. Like you gotta. I mean, time more than anything. It's time.
Yeah.
Right, devoting that time, but yeah, I'd love to. I mean, in an ideal world, if Ikigai just took off and it became a thing, I'd love to just be only working on that as a project. Like if I was just making enough, let's just say just making enough income off the clothing just to live, but also just work on the brand and just, just live, then I'd be happy doing that, I think. But if it wasn't the case, but I'd still be working on it from the side, but I'd like to have a job that I'm more passionate about in an engineering field, but devote more of my time outside of my life to my passions, Ikigai, what I'm working on. One thing that I do really want in 10 years is just balance, because that's something that I'm really working on right now, is like everything. I think everything in life is a balance, and work, family, friends, like each individual relationship, like your virtues and your vices and your technology, like everything in life, it's like there's a good medium for it, and everyone has their own balance in their life that works for them. Yeah. But I think there's a lot of work in finding it, at least for me, that I've found, especially right now.
Where are your imbalances right now, Ari Tani?
I would say that my imbalances are, right now I've been neglecting family a little bit, which I'm pretty fucking bummed about. But
what do you mean? Just like not communicating with your parents, or?
No, like I'm just not communicating with my like family in general enough. Like we have like a family group chat and stuff, but like things have been just weird with COVID, and like right. I've just been, I guess, just really in the present a little bit to some extent. So I don't know. I feel bad. Yeah, like friends and family is a really hard balance for me, and having a girlfriend, and there's always just, how long do you work every single day? How many hours do you work? What are you going to do after work? Physical health ties in a lot with your time. For me, with my time with friends and family, because I want to be healthy. Like I want to get like in really good shape, and like being healthy is an important thing for me. But a lot of the times, if I'm on like a super strict gym regimen, like a lot of the family and friend time drops off. So there's a medium that I would like to have achieved, a balance that I would like to have achieved by that point.
Right.
Where
in your view, is there is there a pie chart for that balance, or is it just kind of whatever feels right? Like, is it like 30% exercise, 40% family, like whatever, or is it whatever feels right? Like sometimes you'll need to exercise more, exercise less, work more, work less. Is it just kind of feeling out what feels right more, or how do you plan, how do you work on finding that balance? Because I agree, it's a really hard thing to do. And sometimes the problem for me is like I don't even know where the balance is. I'm like, yes. I know I'm not working out enough, but I don't think I'm spending enough time with friends, but I also feel like I'm not working. Like it's just like, yes, you can't, how are you able to even know where that balance resides? Like, do you have ways to think that out?
I don't know. I think it's I think for right now it's me thinking about how I'm feeling and what I'm actually thinking about. So like, if I've been meaning to hang out with someone for a while, or like someone hit me up last week and it just didn't happen, but then it just keeps happening, but I keep thinking about it, like I want to get together with this person, like I genuinely want to hang out with them, so like why haven't I created the time for it? So I think, or it's like, damn, like I feel like a piece of shit today, like I haven't worked out in forever, or like I feel like I should really work out today, or like, and you just like feel worse that day. I think the balance will come when you feel like you don't have those lingering thoughts as much. Like you feel like you have your, it's like kind of a bad term, but like you have your bases covered. Like
it's a little easier to go to bed at night at the end of the day.
Yeah, and like, well, because I hate like I'm struggling more with relationships now because I want to keep relationships so badly, but like I have a lot of the relationships that are together that I can bring together a lot easier to maintain.
Like friends who can all hang out. You're like, fuck it, I'll bring 10 motherfuckers in together.
Yeah, or just people, because it's easy to see everyone, and then I can talk to everybody and have like a good conversation at some point if they're together. But, and it's obviously not a bad thing if I have to hang out with friends alone. That's not a bad thing, but it's just harder to manage a lot of relationships, and I hate feeling like I'm like losing one. Like you have you had that feeling where you just feel like you're like losing the touch to somebody?
Yeah, I mean, coming back to Portland, yeah, it's just like there's so many people to see, and then it was like, fuck, I don't have enough time to see everybody. I know already. It's like, yeah, it's losing touch. Yeah, that's a scary feeling to have.
So one of my least favorite feelings is just losing that touch, and just yeah, I don't know. That's hard for me. I don't like losing people. Like I don't like letting people down. Like, yeah, I don't.
Definitely. So. Yeah. No. I think relationships are inherently the most difficult and most important part of your adult life, because as a child, I mean, I know a lot of people deal with bullying and deal with stuff at home and all that stuff, but I think inherently relationships are a little more natural. As a kid, you don't really think about them. They're just going to happen.
Yeah.
For good or bad, you can realize, fuck these friends later or something like that. But people are attracted to people at a young age. It's a lot easier. But then it becomes work, which almost becomes scarier, because as an adult, if hanging out with friends becomes work, it becomes another thing you have to stress out about, which means that if you don't do it, you don't have that stress, but ultimately leads to depression. Like, it's just totally. Like a cascading thing of like, oh, it's so to make plans is so stressful, I'm not gonna do that, but then that pit in your stomach gets worse. It sinks, you're constantly fighting different emotions and feelings with And I think those personal relationships are the biggest struggle of becoming a full-fledged adult. Where you're not in a class where there's 500 people. You say hi to any of them, talk, like half of them are stoned, half of them drunk from the night before. Sure. It's just all motherfuckers. Like all you're going to work with motherfuckers, and it's just like you got to find a way to keep those connections. Yeah. Yeah. Well,
balance.
Well, cool, man. I think we can basically wrap pretty soon, but I think that the balance and what? Sorry, say the word one more time. So I don't say it wrong. What? Ikigai. Balance and Ikigai. Yeah. I think everyone should strive for balance and Ikigai.
Oh man.
For their future 10-year-old self, for their future self in 10 years. I think that's where we should all be striving, is our own Ikigai and our own balance, wherever that may lie.
Thank you. Yeah. That's a good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hell, man. Yeah.
Well, thank you, man.
Thank you, Ruben.
Yeah,
I fucking appreciate the shit out of you, Rube. God damn. I love you too, man.
All right.
I'm very glad.
Cheers.
Let's do this again. Yeah. Cheers.
Big thanks to Ari for taking this time to have that conversation, and thank you for listening. I'll be back next week with an episode of Fickle Future. It'll be my part 2 about U.S. transit, baby. So if you like trains, this one's for you. Okay, bye.